بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسولا ونبيا ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Continuing on with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the legendary military empire, the era of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, after completing a total of 69 videos, the era of Sayyidina Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, Jazakallah, and a total of 50 videos, the era of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. We have also completed a total of 30 videos, the era of Rasulullah, the military legendary career of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The era of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is the legendary military legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, the legendary government military legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whilst the era of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan is the legendary military empire of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And picking up from page number 258, we're talking about conquest. One day the Turks managed to injure some Muslims. After that, the soldiers of Balajar came out with the Turks to fight the Muslimin. Abdurrahman ibn Rabi'a, who used to be called the possessor of light, was martyred and the Muslims dispersed. Those who took the path of Salman ibn Rabi'a were protected by him until he departed Bab, while those who took the path of Khazar invaded Jilan and Gorgan. Among them were Salman al-Farisi and Abu Huraira radiallahu anhuma. People took Abdurrahman's body, his remains, and placed it in a casket. It remains with them till today. 11.6.11 Patience, O people of Salman. Another narration states that when Abdurrahman radiallahu anhu was murdered, his brother Salman ibn Rabi'a al-Bahili took the flag and fought with it. Someone called out, "Patience, O people of Salman." He replied, "Why do you see anxiety?" Then Salman, accompanied by Abu Huraira ad-Dawsi, went to Jilan and passed through it to Gorgan. He withdrew from the last battle after burying his brother Abdurrahman in the outskirts of Balanjar. By withdrawing like this, Salman was able to save what was left of his brother's army. Mahmud Sheet Khattab accepts his narration as the most valid one, stating, "Withdrawing was closer to the fighting style of the Muslimin at that particular time and was resorted to under high enemy pressure and heavy losses as well. The purpose behind it was to join another group of Muslimin and together launch a counterattack on the enemy. Salman ibn Rabi'a came to aid Abdurrahman on the orders of Uthman ibn Affan, as there would have been no point in leaving his back up in Bab. Likewise, it would have been senseless for Abdurrahman to let his brother stay there while he was engaged in a vicious battle and direly needed reinforcements. How could it be then that Abdurrahman left a whole army led by his own brother without benefiting from them in battle? The ancient historians would use the words khazima, which is commonly translated as defeat or fleeing, while it actually indicates withdrawal. Since most of them were townsmen, they did not distinguish between the hazima, that means abandoning the battlefield in an unorderly fashion without a leader, which is something catastrophic, and ishihaba, withdrawing, which is organized abandonment of the battlefield. To abandon the battlefield in an organized fashion under one leader. Therefore, withdrawal is just another phase in the battle, the aim of which is to strike back at the enemy after reinforcing the troops. The traditionalist historians should not commit the same mistake regarding this term and should distinguish between the words hazima and inshihab, as there truly is a considerable difference between the two. 11.7 The first dispute between the people of Kufa in Syria in the 32nd year after the Hijriya. When Abdurrahman ibn Rabi'ah was martyred, Sa'id ibn al-As appointed Salman ibn Rabi'ah to command that division, and Uthman aided them with the people of Syria, who were led by Habib ibn Maslama. Habib and Salman disputed over who would assume the position of the commander. The people of Syria said, "We are very close to hitting Salman." Hearing this, others said, "Should that happen, we will strike Habib and imprison him, and if you resist, many will die from both sides." Aus ibn Maghra from the people of Kufa said regarding that, "If you strike our Salman, we will strike your Habib, and if you go to Ibn Affan, we will go as well. But if you are just, the borders are those of our leader. He comes from these cavalries, as you can tell. Under us are the borders as we used to protect them. The knights we shot at every crucial spot and repelled." The Muslimin managed to resolve that dispute by the grace of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and people like Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, who had joined an expedition with the people of Kufa. 11.8 Conquest of Ibn Amir in the 32nd years after the Hijriya. Throughout this year, Ibn Amir conquered Marwa, Arud, Taluqan, Faria, Jawzjan, and Tagharistan. The defeat of Qarin in Khorasan. 11.9 When Ibn Amir returned from the expedition, he appointed Ibn Qais al-Haytham as the governor of Khorasan. Then Qarin came forward with an army of 40,000. Abdullah ibn Khazim as-Sulaimi confronted them with 4,000 men, of which 600 were put at the front. Each was told to set alight the head of his spear. At midnight they proceeded to the enemy camp and took them by surprise. They began the fighting, the troops at the front. Once they were occupied with this, Abdullah ibn Qasim surrounded them with the rest of the army. The polytheists fled, chased by the Muslimin, who killed whomever they could. One of those whom they killed was Qarin. The Muslimin also took many prisoners and collected abundant amount of spoils. Abdullah ibn Qasim sent news of the victory to Ibn Amir, who was pleased and appointed him as the governor of Khorasan. The aforementioned few pages detailed the way our rightfully guided Khalifa Uthman radiallahu anhu confronted the rebellious movements in the east and continued his conquest. These upheavals did not weaken the Muslimin or affect the determination of their Khalif. Rather, he was fully able to deal with them, facing problems with resolute wisdom, quick execution, and facilitation of aid whenever needed. There is no doubt that Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu made the right choice in handing the leadership to the commanders who achieved the victories and suppressed the uprisings. This was despite the fact that the task of jihad was greater and heavier than ever before. It was also more dependent on correct strategies as the battles raged far and wide in the face of turmoil. Uthman handled the unexpected difficulties that arose during his caliphate in a determined, sound, and swift manner, practically cautionless and deliberation, or I should say, practicing cautiousness and deliberation. This only proves that he had a strong personality and deep insight. After Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, he deserves the most credit for returning the to Islamic State the revered status that it had lost after being shaken and weakened by the murder assassination of Sayyidina and martyrdom of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab. In short, the glorious action of Sayyidina Uthman bore the following fruits. The rebels were subdued and authority was returned to the Muslimin. Conquest was extended beyond the rebellion or beyond the rebels' lands, lest the rebels should flee to them and stir up trouble from there. Permanent military bases were set up where the Muslimin would be stationed to guard the newly conquered lands. 11.10 Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais, one of the leaders of the conquest in the east. Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais was amongst those who led the conquest during the time of Uthman. He had a distinguished way of commanding the troops that performed these conquests in the east. He also had the ability to plan effective strategies and to make quick yet appropriate decisive decisions. His own bravery and activity also played an important role in implementing these strategies and orders. He would do his utmost in planning his strategy and consulting the experienced to the extent that he would secretly walk among his men at night and listen to their discussions. If he heard a good idea, he implemented it. He did not mind paying heed to wisdom, he did not mind paying heed to wisdom, no matter where he found it. This military commander fought the enemy physically and psychologically. His bravery and courage was so commendable that he will endanger himself instead of his men, preferring that they remain safe and sound. He was also very smart, which saved his men from a lot of trouble and hardship. Next chapter, which is chapter number 12, Uthman's conquest of Syria. 12.1 The conquest of Habib ibn Maslama al-Fihri. It has been mentioned that the Byzantines assembled a mighty army to fight the Muslims in Syria at the beginning of Uthman's Khalifa. Consequently, Uthman wrote to Al-Walid ibn Uqba in Kufa, requesting that he come to the aid of his brother in Syria. Al-Walid sent 8,000 mujahideen led by Salman ibn Rabi'a al-Bahili, then in the land of the Byzantines. The Muslims got the upper hand and took prisoners and spoils of war from them. However, the alliance of the Byzantines and Turks gathered again to fight the Muslims who had invaded Armenia from Syria under the command of Habib ibn Maslama, who was a clever strategist. He decided to raid the camp of the enemy leader Al-Muriyan. His wife Abdullah bint Yazid al-Khalbiya heard him mention that and asked, "So where will you head?" He replied, "Al-Muriya's tent or paradise." He raided and overcame them, but when he arrived at the tent of Muriya, he found that his wife had preceded him and already killed him. Habib continued his ongoing jihad and victories in the lands of Armenia and Azerbaijan, then either by making treaties or by force. Habib ibn Maslama al-Fihri was among the distinguished commanders fighting the Byzantines in Armenia. He destroyed complete armies and conquered numerous fortresses and towns. He fought in the Byzantine land by the border of Al-Iraq, where he conquered many fortresses such as Shamshat and Malatya. In 25 years after the Hijriya, Muawiyah marched to Byzantium. When he got to Amorium, he founded the fortress between Antakya and Tarsus, Syria, and were empty, So he stationed there a large army of soldiers from Syria and Iraq. In the following summer, his commander Qais ibn al-Hur al-Absi continued the expedition. When he was finished, he destroyed some of the fortresses near Antioch to prevent the Byzantines from using them. 12.2 The first to allow naval campaigns was Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan. When Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan was the ruler of Syria, he used to insist that Umar let him battle by sea. He would inform him that Byzantium was so close to Homs that the people of a village there could hear the barking of their dogs and the crowing of their roosters. Umar wrote to Amr ibn al-As requesting in a letter, describe this sea and the one who embarks on it, for I am tempted to embark it. When Amr ibn As wrote back, he said, indeed, I have seen a small creation enter a mighty one. When it is still, it scares you, and when it moves, it makes you lose your mind. It cannot be trusted and exudes uncertainty. It is like a worm on a piece of wood. If it turns, it drowns, and if it is saved, it is frightened and dazzled. Upon reading this, Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu wrote back to Muawiyah saying, no, by him who sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam with the truth, I will never make a Muslim go there, for by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, one Muslim means more to me than everything the Byzantines possessed. However, Muawiyah was still thinking about it, for he had seen Byzantium and harbored an earnest desire to conquer it. When Uthman became the Khalifa, Muawiyah raised the issue again, seeking his permission, and Uthman radiallahu anhu replied, I witnessed Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab's reply to you. May Allah Jalla Jalaluhu have mercy on him. When you asked him to let you campaign by sea, in spite of this, Muawiyah wrote to him once more, imagining that sailing to Cyprus was an easy task. Uthman replied, if you are ready to take your wife with you, feel free to go. But if not, my answer is no. Stipulating yet another condition, he said, do not pick and choose your men or draw lots among them. Let them choose, and whoever decides to join you, take him with you and help him. Having read this, Muawiyah prepared to sail to Cyprus. He wrote to his men on the coast, instructing them to fix the ships and bring them close to the fortress of Acre, which he had renovated. From there, the Muslims would sail to Cyprus. The expedition to Cyprus, 12.3. Muawiyah prepared enough ships to carry the army and set sail for the port of Acre. The ships were many, and on one of them was his wife Faqita bint Qarda. Even though Muawiyah did not force anyone to come along, a large number of Muslimin accompanied him in the end. Inshallah, we will stop here and pick it up from page number 265. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.